boys and girls first because today they are first. I went to school in Farrell. I went to first grade at J.A. Farrell School that I don't think any of you here can remember, but I did go to elementary school and high school in Farrell, and I graduated from Farrell High School. And how many of you studied social studies? Do you have social studies in school? Raise your hand if you have social studies. All right. What grade are you in?
First grade.
First grade. No social studies yet. And what grade are you girls in? What grade?
Fifth and fourth.
Say that again, a little
Fifth
louder.
and fourth.
And how about you?
Fourth.
Fourth and
Fourth.
fourth. All right, so you have social studies and you study about other places in the world. And I hope you have studied a little bit about Africa because most of us in this room have ancestors. Our ancestors came from Africa. Well, when I read about Africa in school, it was called the Dark Continent. And I wondered, oh, is it always dark there? Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Africa. I wondered so many things about it. I read that people in Africa live in mud houses. Did you ever make something out of mud? What happened to it when it rained? Tell me about it. Well, if you make something out of mud and you leave it outside and it rains, what happens to what you made?
It turns watery.
What happens to it?
It turns watery and melts.
And it doesn't even look like what you made anymore. So I wondered, how can people live in houses made out of mud? When it rains, the house will just wash away. So do you believe that people in Africa, in some parts of Africa, do you believe that they really do live in houses made out of mud? Do you believe that was true?
No.
You don't believe it was true, do you? Do you girls, you're older, do you believe that's true? That people live in houses made out of mud? Do you believe it's true?
No.
You don't believe it either. You
I
don't
believe
either.
it now.
Well, I couldn't believe it either when I was your age. So there were so many things about Africa that I wondered about. I wondered if they were true. I also wondered why people walked around with no clothes on in Africa, because that's what some of our books told us, that people didn't wear clothes in Africa. And I thought, how could that be? That people don't wear clothes. So there were just so many things that I wondered about that I wanted to find out for myself.
That's just weird.
But,
That's just weird.
That's just weird, isn't it? Yes, it is weird. And I thought it was weird too. So I thought, I hope that someday I'll be able to go to Africa and see for myself if all of this is true. Is it really dark all the time? Call it the dark continent. It must be dark all the time. I didn't like that idea so much. But I thought, I'll go and see. Maybe somebody will turn on a light for me. And believe it or not, boys and girls, when I grew up and graduated from Farrell High School, and then I went to college, just like you are going to do, and I became a teacher. a teacher just like the teachers that I had in school and the teachers that you now have. And I was able to go to Africa to see for myself. And I thought, I better take a flashlight with me. Why?
Because it was dark. Everything's dark.
Because it's the dark continent. So I better take a flashlight or two and some extra batteries so that I'll be able to see on this dark continent.
Yeah.
Well, to my surprise, when I reached Africa, the sun was so bright and warm. I thought I was in the wrong place. But anyway, this is what the pilot on the plane said. Yeah, we have reached Africa. This is Africa. So I thought, well, I guess he knows the way. I hope he knew the way, but this is not what I expected. While I was there, boys and girls, I became a teacher in a college, but there were so many little children around where I lived. Every day I would see these little children going to school, walking past my house. And guess what, boys and girls? Nobody had a house that was melted away. But guess what? They did have houses, they do have houses made out of mud. For real. But do you know what that mud is like? They make bricks out of that mud.
Just cement?
Say that again?
Cement? Cement.
Almost like cement, right. They take that mud and they shape it into, put my hands on it. They shape that mud into bricks. And then they put those bricks in fire. And those bricks get very, very hard. And you know what? They feel like cement. And they are just as strong as cement because they put something inside that mud like straw that holds that mud together.
Probably sticks.
Yeah,
Or rocks.
little sticks inside that mud to make it stay together and look just like a brick. And just like we see brick houses here, their houses are mud brick houses. But those bricks are just as hard as cement. And believe me, boys and girls, rain does not wash them away. Another thing I learned in school was that the houses have roofs made out of straw. Oh boy. What will happen with a straw roof when it rains?
Rain will go through it.
Right through the straw. Well, their straw is not really the straw that we know about. Actually, their roofs are made out of very wide leaves that are laid one on top of the other, and they make shingles. Did you ever see anybody getting a new roof on their, put on their house? Did you ever see any of your neighbors or somebody getting a new roof nailed onto their house? Well, if you haven't seen it, the shingles are wide leaves, and they put them one over the other, and after the leaves dry out, they become very, very strong. Now those leaves, after many years, the leaves do dry out and crack and get broken. So they just take them off and put new leaves on. But the roofs do not leak. Once they start to leak, did you ever have a leak in your house where water was coming from the ceiling?
No.
Anybody ever have a leak? I think probably most of the adults here can remember a leak somewhere
Yes.
in your house.
Mhm.
Well, when that happens to these leaves and the leaf roofs, then they just know they have to get some more leaves, take off the old ones, and put on new leaf shingles. So they do have roofs made of leaves, not straw, but leaves. And many people also use banana leaves for an umbrella when they're walking in the rain, because banana leaves are wide and they serve very nicely as an umbrella. But I got to know the children around my house, and I invited them to my home to hear stories. Every Saturday, the children would come to my home and I would read stories to them and help them learn English. They were learning English in school, but I wanted them to come to my house and learn English while they were having a lot of fun. I got to know these children so well that I began to write stories about them. When they came to my home, I taught them how to paint. I taught them how to play a chord organ. Any of you have a chord organ? What do they call it, a keyboard? Any of you have a keyboard?
Yes.
Who has a keyboard? You do? Good. I taught the children there how to play a keyboard. That is a young man who said he has a keyboard. Am I correct? Who's sitting beside you? Is that a young man or a young lady?
Oh, right here?
Right here in the blue shirt,
Oh, that's a young man.
young man. Did you say you have a keyboard?
No.
No, I thought I saw someone back there. But I taught those children how to play a keyboard. And each one of them who learned how to play a keyboard had to teach another child how to play the keyboard. And so we had lots and lots of fun there every Saturday in my home. But I began to write stories about them. One of the stories I wrote is called Auntie's Paintbrush, because they called me Auntie. They called me Auntie Martha. And I still have people here in this country who call me Auntie Martha. Can you pull me, push me? Or- The story I'm going to read to you today is Auntie's Paintbrush. And the little boy that I'm going to read about, his name was Chuka. The people I lived with were the Igbo people. Just as you have neighbors whose relatives and whose ancestors came from other countries, they have the name of their country may be Italy, so your neighbors may be Italian. Other neighbors may be Polish. Other neighbors may be Slovak. I lived among the Igbo people in Nigeria. Chuka was a little Igbo boy who lived in a town where there was a big university. And that was the university where I was a teacher. Chuka's house was very near to the camp where many of the university teachers lived. One of the teachers lived all alone in one of the big houses. She was a lady whom the children called Auntie. Chuka and many of the other children saw Auntie nearly every day when she was driving to the university. They would shout greetings to her and she would always answer them. Chuka told the other children that one day Auntie called him and gave him a fresh, warm biscuit. Another time, she showed him some very nice storybooks.
Is she in the way? There's someone here.
One day, Chuka and some of his playmates were walking past Auntie's house when she called to them, "Come, children, would you like to have some sweets?" When the children came to Auntie's door, Emeka peeked into Auntie's parlor. All around the room on the shelves were many books. It looked almost like a library. "Did you see all those books?" Emeka asked the other boys. "I wonder if Auntie reads all of those books." "Of course she does," answered Chuka. "She's a professor. All professors read a lot of books. That's all they do." "You said Auntie gave you a warm biscuit? Maybe she stops reading sometimes so she can make biscuits." Emeka knew that Chuka often said silly things. One holiday when there was no school, Emeka, Chuka, and Madhu were looking for snails when Chuka said, "I don't think we're going to find any snails today. I think we will have to wait until it rains again. Let's go to Auntie's house and ask her if we can look at some of her books." As the three boys were walking past the last compound on the road, a friendly voice called out, "Emeka, Chuka, where are you and Madhu going?" "To Auntie's. We are going to ask her if we can read some books." "Do you want to come?" Emeka invited Aku. Aku ran to join the other boys. When the children reached Auntie's porch, they found her sitting in front of a large board covered with white paper. Auntie was not reading, she was painting a picture. "We didn't know you could paint," said Chuka. "We thought you read books all the time." "Sometimes I read and at other times I paint. I even make biscuits and cookies sometimes. Would you boys like to paint something?" "I would," eagerly replied Chuka. "So would I. Me too." "Yes, Auntie should," shouted each of the boys in turn. Auntie gave each of the boys a small brush. "You will have to share the brushes for the different colors. Each of you may have a sheet of paper." "I want to paint a picture of a masquerade," said Emeka. "I will paint my village," said Aku. "No one will know what I will paint," said Chuka. "It will be a surprise. I'm a good artist. No one can paint as well as I can." "I like painting animals," said Madhu. "So I will paint a leopard." The boys began painting. "Look at my masquerade," said Emeka. "He looks fearful." "I'm not afraid of it," said Aku. "Aku does not fear anything," said Chuka. "But wait until he sees what I will paint. It will surely frighten him." But Chuka did not paint. Instead, he began to quietly tease the other children. While the other boys were painting, Chuka was making ugly faces at his friend. He stuck out his tongue and wiggled his nose. Auntie did not see what he was doing. Auntie watched the children painting for a while. Then she went out to cook for lunch. While Auntie was in the kitchen, Chuka put black paint on Emeka's white shorts. "Why did you put paint on my shorts, Chuka? I'm going to tell Auntie," whimpered Emeka angrily. "It was a mistake," said Chuka. Next, Chuka went to Aku's painting of his village. "Your village is an ugly place," sneered Chuka. "It looks like this." And laughing, he splashed red all over Aku's picture. "None of you can paint as well as I can," boasted Chuka. Aku began to cry. The picture of his village was spoiled. Soon, Auntie called from the kitchen, "Children, it's time to stop painting. You must stop and wash the brushes, and be sure to wash your hands." The children loved painting so much that they did not want to stop. Chuka decided to start painting. He painted a make-believe creature that was really quite frightening. It was a very good painting. He boasted that he was the best artist of all. Soon Auntie came in from the kitchen. Haven't you children stopped painting yet? Please clean up everything and go home now. You may come back tomorrow. I'll let you paint again. Emeka, how did you get that black paint on your shorts? Auntie asked. He was careless, answered Chuka before Emeka could speak. And Aku, I am sorry that you had an accident and spoiled your picture, but don't worry, you may paint another one tomorrow. The children did not want to tell Auntie that Chuka was misbehaving. She might not allow them to come back to her house, so they kept quiet. When the children went to wash the brushes, Chuka cleverly slipped one of the brushes inside his belt of his trousers and covered it with his shirt. He thought, Auntie has many paintbrushes. She doesn't need all of them. Maybe I will get some paints, then I can show everyone that I am the best painter of all. As the children were walking home, they decided to climb a mango tree that was in an open field. I can climb faster than any of you, shouted Chuka. And he jumped up and caught a low-hanging branch. When he jumped up, his shirt went up, and Emeka saw the paintbrush. Chuka, you have stolen Auntie's paintbrush. I can see it under your shirt, he shouted. Angrily, Chuka jumped down from the tree. It's not Auntie's brush. I found it on the road. Madhu joined in scolding Chuka. You are lying, Chuka. That's Auntie's brush. Emeka and I are going to tell Auntie. Chuka did not want to play any longer. He ran home. That afternoon, Chuka's senior sister, Anita, came home from school. She was a student in class 3. Everyone in class 3 was doing a fine arts course that term. So they were told to buy a box of colored paints to use in their fine arts class. Anita placed her paints in her room on her reading table. Then she went out to have her bath. Chuka slipped into his sister's room and looked on her reading table to look for some paper to write on. What a surprise to see the beautiful set of paints. Chuka took out the small carton containing the paints, closing the tin box quietly, stole away to his room. He had the box of paints in one hand and some sheets of paper in the other. Now I can paint a picture, he thought. Chuka looked in his drawer and took out the paintbrush that he had carefully hidden beneath his shorts. Silently, he began to paint a picture of a lovely flower like one he had seen on his way home from school. The flower was shaped like a tiny cup and was red, white, and pink in color. It had 2 long yellow tubes with little balls on the end, shooting out from the center. It was a beautiful painting. Chuka hid the painting in the drawer and took the box of paints back to his sister's room. Then he remembered the paintbrush. He must wash it and put it back in his drawer under his shorts. When Chuka went back to his drawer to hide the brush, he decided to look again at the beautiful flower he had painted. But when Chuka turned over the picture, he didn't see a beautiful flower at all. Instead, there was a picture of an ugly witch on the paper, and it seemed to be looking straight at Chuka. He was so frightened that he crumpled the paper and ran outside and threw it in the garbage can. After school, the next day, Chuka decided to take his sister's paints again and paint another picture. He thought he remembered that something bad had happened to him the day before. Then after thinking about it for a while, he decided that it must have been a dream. Taking the stolen paintbrush from its hiding place, Chuka began to paint a picture of a bird. He had seen a large black bird with a white breast and red and white feathers in its tail. That's what I'll paint, he thought. When he finished his painting, Chuka thought it was the finest picture he had ever painted. He placed the picture on his desk and again hid Auntie's paintbrush in his drawer under his shorts. This time when he went to his sister's room, she saw him going with the carton of paints. "What are you doing with my paints?" Anita asked Chuka. "Nothing," answered the naughty boy. "Oh yes, you are doing something. Give me my paints. When I used them at school today, I thought that some other student had taken my paints. Now I know it was you who did it." "Mom, Chuka has been wasting my paint. Now I won't have enough to finish my project," shouted Anita to her mother. Chuka stood shaking with fear. What would his mother do to him? Chuka called his mother from the kitchen. "Come here." Chuka hesitated. "Come here, Chuka," his mother shouted in an angry tone. "Why didn't you come when I called you?" I didn't hear you," lied the naughty boy. "Why have you taken your sister's painting without asking her? What have you been painting? Go and bring it." Chuka thought if his mother saw the beautiful bird he had painted, she would not be angry with him for using his sister's paint. So he ran quickly to his room to bring his painting of the bird. It was lovely. Fearfully but proudly, Chuka placed the painting in his mother's hands. "What is this ugly thing you have been wasting paint on?" exclaimed his mother in a loud, angry voice, and she threw the picture on the floor. When Chuka picked it up and looked at it, his beautiful bird was gone. Instead, there were black lines, green lines, big red spots, little yellow spots all scattered over the paper, and one big red eye that seemed to be looking straight at Chuka. "Chuka, I'm going to punish you for wasting your sister's paint." Chuka began to cry and to plead with his mother not to beat him. He told her that he had painted a beautiful bird and somehow it changed into something very ugly. Because his mother thought he was telling a lie, she decided that she would not allow him to play for 1 week. That night, Chuka couldn't sleep. He was frightened by what had happened to his two beautiful paintings. He couldn't understand it. He began to cry. He cried for a long time until he fell asleep. "You are a very naughty boy, Chuka," came a voice from beneath his bed. Chuka woke and began to tremble with fear. Who had entered his room while he was asleep? Should he cry out to his mother? No, he should not. His mother might be angry if he disturbed her if nothing was under the bed. Should he run out of his room? No, he must remain in his bed. The thing might hold his feet if he dared to put his feet out of the bed. So he just lay there shaking like a leaf. Again the voice spoke to him, this time a bit louder. "Chuka, you are a very naughty boy." "What can I do? Surely it will kill me." Chuka tried to get up to run, but something was holding him down. Then the voice shouted again, sounded like a frog croaking in the night. "If you don't return Auntie's paintbrush, I will." Suddenly Chuka woke up, jumped from his bed, and ran to his drawer to see if Auntie's paintbrush was under the shorts where he put it. Yes, there it was. Auntie's paintbrush had been washed and carefully hidden so that he could use it again. But Chuka no longer wanted to paint pictures. Every time he painted something beautiful, it changed into something ugly. How he wished he had not stolen Auntie's paintbrush. Chuka began to think of a way in which he could return the brush to Auntie. But she might beat me, thought Chuka. Then he remembered that Auntie was not mean. She wouldn't beat anyone. Sometimes she scolded them, but she didn't beat them. But Chuka feared not just a beating, he feared looking at Auntie. He could not look at Auntie and say, I took your paintbrush, Auntie. Here's your property. I promise never to steal again. I'm sure, I'm sorry. He just couldn't say it. He thought and thought, what could he do? Then an idea came to his mind. He could not say sorry to Auntie, but he could write it. And that's what he did. He wrapped the letter around Auntie's paintbrush and pushed it under the door of her house. The next day, Auntie called the children to paint pictures again. Chuka painted a picture of Auntie, and it was a very beautiful picture indeed. Show them he's putting the brush under. There's Chuka putting the paintbrush under Auntie's door. And now go back to the first page and show the picture of Auntie. And there's the picture of Auntie that Chuka painted. Auntie with the biscuits.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. What was under Chuka's bed?